Good afternoon, and welcome again to the Stoner Report. I'm Marius Stoner here at the BCMP Vapor Lounge, 307 West Hastings. Come on down and pay us a visit and use our vaporizers, or come down to the store, same address, and buy some clothing. We still have hemp hoodlums for 50% off if you're interested. They're some of the best jackets that you can possibly get. We have spring and winter stuff, so I don't know how long this sale will last. And we also have free Mark hoodies down there for 50% off. So check us out, or come down and visit me or Jeremiah or Marijuana Man or Jody. But yeah, I'm Marius Stoner, again, Associate Editor of Cannabis Culture Magazine, and this is the news. Health Canada to appeal medical marijuana injunction. The government will appeal the federal court's injunction that allows medical pot smokers to keep growing their own stash. It's the latest in a long string of court battles over the federal government's decision to get out of the marijuana growing business. Earlier this month, the federal court gave a coalition of people who use the drug for medical purposes an exemption from new Health Canada rules, which were set to eliminate 30,000 licenses for homegrown pot on April 1st and force patients to buy what the feds would say would be quality-controlled marijuana from approved commercial producers. On Monday, the federal government said it will ask for the decision to be considered by the Federal Court of Appeal. 12 companies have secured licenses to grow, and the government has received more than 600 more applications. I want to emphasize that marijuana is not an approved drug or medicine in Canada, Health Minister Rona Ambrose said in a statement that did not address the appeal directly. Health Canada does not endorse the use of marijuana, but the courts have required reasonable access to a legal source for medicinal purposes. Medical marijuana users take fight to grow pot to Parliament Hill. Protest comes after Ottawa said it would challenge Injunction letting medical users keep growing pot. Medical marijuana users say Ottawa is trying to take away their God-given right to grow cannabis to relieve pain symptoms. Groups opposed to the federal government's new medical marijuana regulations, which go into effect today, are protesting on Parliament Hill. The demonstration comes one day after Ottawa said it would challenge a federal court injunction that allows medical users to continue growing their own pot pending a constitutional challenge of the new rules. Under new regulations, the new regulations require marijuana users to receive their supply from commercial growers, but also limit the amount of that individuals are allowed to possess. Critics say the new rules will simply make it harder for them to access a drug many of them insist they can't live without. Alison Murden, who suffers from chronic progressive multiple sclerosis, says she relies on medical pot every single day. Murden says the new regulations would mean a substantial increase in the cost of the drug and potentially create supply problems as well. We've heard a lot about that recently. Only in Vancouver, marijuana oil-infused pizza on the menu. Mega Ill sells special slices to people with medicinal marijuana prescriptions. Before the pizza gets baked, it gets baked. A Vancouver pizzeria is serving up slices with an extra special ingredient if you're over 18 and have been prescribed marijuana by a doctor. Anthony Risling explains that Mega Ill on Fraser and Kingsway, you can ask the kitchen to add their special ingredients for an extra $10. Basically, we infuse it through an oil extraction process, where we drizzle the oil into the pizza and it medicates you when you eat it. It's a little different effect from smoking it. It takes maybe half an hour for it to activate. One customer at Mega Ill told CBC News that added oil has a little bit of a tangy flavor, but otherwise doesn't have much of a taste on the pizza. Injunction rocks nascent Canadian marijuana industry. Ottawa's introduction of a medical marijuana strategy last summer was supposed to relieve some anxiety. Patients facing debilitating diseases would have wider access to cannabis produced in safe, regulated environments. Enforcement officials wouldn't have to worry about it as much. pot going out the back door of grow-ops to criminal elements, and insurance companies wouldn't have to grapple with those house fires brought on by inexperienced growers who place too much faith in their electricity outlets. But a temporary federal injunction last month has rocked the cradle of a nascent industry. A dozen or so companies licensed to sell medical marijuana to about 38,000 patients who face debilitating issues as varied from spinal cord injuries, Parkinson's disease, and cancer. By April 1st, around 24,000 marijuana growers were obliged to destroy around a total of 3.5 million plants, which in turn would have created a relatively huge base of customers who needed to buy marijuana elsewhere. The injunction, which Ottawa is appealing, put an end to that. Patients who have valid licenses through September 30th, 2013 can keep cultivating provided they keep no more than 150 grams of dried pot. While some companies remain buoyant despite their ruling, other companies question the meaning of their own existence. There could be major revenue shortfalls, surplus marijuana, and cutthroat competition. The injunction has really thrown a monkey wrench on this industry, said Brent Zettel, the chief executive officer of Saskatoon-based Canamed, the country's largest cannabis company. There will be a cash flow crunch in the short term. We always say that necessity is the mother of invention, but cash flow is the father. Florida medical cannabis activist Renee Petro under CPS investigation. Renee Petro has already been living a parent's worst nightmare for years. Her 12-year-old son, Brandon, suffers from a rare form of pediatric epilepsy called FIRES, which causes uncontrolled seizures that can be fatal. On Tuesday, a new nightmare began for the family when Florida Child Protective Services showed up at their home to investigate an anonymous tip that Renee was not administering Brandon's prescription anti-seizure medication and was instead treating him with cannabis extract. "I've never used cannabis medicine for Brandon," says Renee. "I know fully well that cannabis would help him, but because I live in an illegal state, we have never tried it. I have not broken any laws." What Renee has done, however, is advocate loudly for reform, both in Florida and across her country, organizing parents' rallies and speaking to the media, calling for broad-based medical cannabis legislation that could help her son as well as many others. Lady Bud, which is where the story is from, has reported on Renee's activism numerous times. "I feel like our family was targeted," says Renee, "just because I'm doing what our beautiful country is built on, freedom of speech. I'm just trying to change and better the world that we live in." Colorado man files suit. Idaho State Police accused of license plate profiling. Racial profiling is well known, but a Colorado man says the state's new recreational marijuana law is contributing to license plate profiling. Darian Rosine, a 70-year-old man from Pagosa Springs, has filed a federal civil rights lawsuit alleging the Idaho State Police targeted him because of his Colorado license plate. He claims that a trooper pulled him over and subjected him to multiple searches for marijuana simply because he had a Colorado license plate. Mr. Rosen is a retiree who is simply returning from his daughter's baby shower in Washington, says Mark Kuntz, an attorney for Rosen. "I mean, there was no reason to deprive him of his rights that day. There was no justification." According to the lawsuit, Rosine had just crossed into Idaho from Oregon on Interstate 84 in late January when a trooper began following him into a rest stop and then turned on his lights. From the facts and even the video of the dash cam of the police car, the conversation turns quickly from a lane change violation to, "Where is your marijuana?" Kuntz said. The D.C. mayor signs a decriminalization bill. Washington, D.C. Mayor Vincent Gray Monday signed the marijuana decriminalization bill passed last month by the City Council. It's not quite a done deal yet, though. Congress has 60 working days to object, But to stop the bill, it must pass a resolution blocking it, and President Obama must sign it. So it appears likely that the nation's capital will have a decriminalized pot possession by the time Congress leaves town for the August recess. D.C. lawmakers heard loud and clear the public's demand to end marijuana arrests and pass one of the strongest decriminalization laws in the whole country, said Grant Smith, policy manager with the Drug Policy Alliance. We don't expect members of Congress to object to saving taxpayer dollars and advancing racial justice here in the nation's capital. The decriminalization bill, the Marijuana Possession Decriminalization Amendment of 2014, Council Bill 2409, makes possession of less than an ounce of marijuana a civil offense punishable by a fine of only $25, the cheapest of any decriminalization state. It also explicitly prohibits the police from using smell of marijuana as a pretext for stopping and searching people. The bill advanced through the D.C. political process on a wave of concern that marijuana laws in the nation's capital were being enforced in a racially discriminatory fashion and is seen by council members and advocates alike as a model for reducing racial disparities in the criminal justice system. Oh, forgot the pick again. It's a new format, and I'll get the hang of it. I promised a perfect show next time. Do you believe me? I wouldn't, but I'll do my best. There we go, there's the mayor. And next on the list. There we go. New Jersey prosecutors call for legalized pot. New Jersey. Many municipal prosecutors and some lawmakers say it's high time to rewrite the law. Proponents of legalizing marijuana in New Jersey received a boost from an unlikely source, the very people who prosecute pot users. The New Jersey State Municipal Prosecutors Association has come out in favor of legalizing possession of marijuana. The support of Prosecutors Association comes as two bills were introduced this month into the legislature as polls show a majority of Americans favor legalization. One of the bills, introduced on March 10th, calls for a referendum asking voters to legalize the possession of an ounce or less of marijuana. It is sponsored by Assemblyman Reed Gusciora, a Democrat representing Hunterdon and Mercer counties, who also is municipal prosecutor in Lawrence Township, and Michael Patrick Carroll, a Republican representing Morris and Somerset counties. All right, so I'm just going to hold off on the next story for a bit because it's almost there. There we go. So happy 2:20 to everybody in Vancouver, and happy 4:20 to people in the Central Mountain time zone. Let's actually have a look at that time zone, shall we? There we go. So there we are. So there's people, it's like in Manitoba and parts of Saskatchewan and all those states down there. Woohoo! Happy 420. Good to see you all. I have my trusty bong here, given to me by Cheech. Can you see that there? There we go. Yeah, the force here. Perfect. And I'm going to be smoking a little bit of butter. Some nice butter here to smoke. Some people have actually complained that I never smoke during the year, and viewers of the show know that I always smoke something at 2:20, so that's kind of odd for them to have said that. And I'm going to smoke something right now. I hope all you guys in chat are high, enjoying the show and the format. So yeah, Cheech, if you're watching, I have still yet to here we go, design the bong that you said that I could design. I'm thinking about it. I've finally come up with an idea that I really want, so I'm not going to spoil it or anything. But thank you, Cheech, and I am going to design that bomb. And this is like darned good butter. Sorry about that. Alrighty. Obama needs to slap down his rogue DEA chief. Michele Leonhart, administrator of the Drug Enforcement Administration, repeatedly criticized the Obama administration at a hearing Wednesday on the DEA's budget for the upcoming fiscal year. In a memo released in July 2013, the Department of Justice announced that it would not interfere with the effective implementation of laws regulating the cultivation and sale of marijuana for adults in Colorado and Washington. When asked by Congressman Frank Wolf during a Commerce, Justice, Science, and Related Agencies Subcommittee hearing whether the Obama administration's tolerant views towards legal marijuana had affected morale at the DEA, which is a branch of the Department of Justice, Leonhart replied that our agents are fighting back against those messages. It makes us fight harder. She had earlier criticized the Department of Justice for a perceived delay in issuing a response to Washington and Colorado's new laws, claiming there was a lot of confusion in those 296 days. Leonhart also claimed that public opinion in Colorado is turning against the initiative making marijuana legal. Yet 2 recent polls suggest Colorado residents are more supportive of the law than ever before. A public policy polling survey from March showed that 57% of the Colorado voters think that marijuana should be legal. And a Quinnipiac poll from February showed 58% support for the state's legalization law. It was supported by 54.8% of voters in 2012. Finally, Leonhart claimed legalization would be dangerous to pets in Colorado and warned of a surge in veterinary clinic visits due to dogs consuming marijuana. Wow, now that's comedy. The truth about the marijuana effect in Americans' election. Marijuana on the ballot boosts voter turnout, but that may not help many Democrats this year. Last week, a bipartisan George Washington University battleground poll made national headlines when the top Democratic researcher, Celinda Lake, said the ballot questions on marijuana could increase young voter turnout. We're very excited about our marijuana numbers in this poll, not only for personal consumption to get through this election, but in terms of turnout, Lake told USA Today. What's really interesting, and, I think, a total unwritten story, is that everyone talks about marriage equality hitting a tipping point of acceptance. Marijuana is hitting the tipping point. It's really astounding how fast it's moved. Lake's findings may be good news for the legalization movement in the long run, but Democrats should not conclude that the presence of pot issues on a handful of ballots in 2014 will bring out a wider youth vote and help them stay in power nationally. That's because there aren't many states with marijuana initiatives on the ballot in 2014. Just Alaska and Florida so far, although Oregon is expecting a measure on the fall ballot. Pot may help turn out voters in those states, but that's not unfolding on a scale that would impact whether the Senate keeps its Democratic majority. Marijuana legalization could bring unexpected benefits in traffic safety. The anti-pot group Project SAM claims drug test data show that marijuana legalization in Washington approved by voters in the state at the end of 2012, already has made the roads more dangerous. The group notes with alarm that the percentage of people arrested for driving under the influence of the drug who tested positive for marijuana rose by a third between 2012 and 2013. Even before the first marijuana store opens in Washington, normalization and acceptance have set in, says Project SAM Chairman Patrick J. Kennedy. This is a wake-up call for officials and the public about the dangerousness of the drug, especially when driving. In truth, these numbers do not tell us anything about the dangerousness of marijuana. They do not even necessarily mean that more people are driving while high. Furthermore, other evidence suggests that legalizing marijuana could make the roads safer, reducing traffic fatalities by encouraging the substitution of marijuana for alcohol. According to state toxicologist Fiona Cooper, the share of DUID arrestees in Washington whose blood tested positive for THC, marijuana's main psychoactive ingredient, rose from 18.6% in 2012 and 24.9% in 2013. That's an increase of more than 33%, as Project SAM emphasizes with a scary-looking bar graph. At the same time, the total number of DUID arrests in Washington rose by just 3%, about the same as the increases seen in the previous 3 years, while DUID arrests by state troopers fell 16%. These numbers do not suggest that Washington's highways are awash with dangerously stoned drivers. So why the substantial increase in positive marijuana tests? Lieutenant Rob Sharp, commander of the Washington State Patrol's Impaired Driving Section, notes that additional officers were trained to recognize drug drivers in anticipation of the marijuana legalization. So even if the number of stoned drivers remains the same, police may have pulled over more of them as a result of that training. And finally, billionaire George Soros behind major push for marijuana legalization. Hungarian-American billionaire and philanthropist George Soros is no stranger when it comes to throwing around money. But the former hedge fund manager is making headlines over some major donations he's made to help legalize marijuana. On the heels of approval of two of the United States' first recreational laws in Colorado and Washington, other locales across the country are considering implementing policy changes that could decriminalize pot, ease penalties for users, or eliminate weed laws altogether. Advocacy groups are leading the campaign to crush marijuana prohibition from coast to coast, and 83-year-old Soros is helping line the pockets of those making that push. On Wednesday this week, Kelly Riddell at the Washington Times pulled back the curtain to reveal details about some of the roles that Soros has played in the pro-weed debate, and helped explain how the billionaire's many foundations are fighting the war against pot prohibition. Through a network of non-profit groups, Mr. Soros has spent at least $80 million on the legalization effort since 1994, when he diverted a portion of his foundation's fund to organizations exploring alternative drug policies, according to tax filings, Riddell wrote. And speaking of philanthropists donating to the pot movement, don't forget that Mark Emery, I believe it's 95 days. It may be different on the website, but Jody, Jeremiah, and I believe that it was 99 days as of the 1st of April. So I'm cutting down from that. Regardless, the last few months, and it's about 3 months now, are going to be the hardest on everybody. It's really stressful. Mark just wants to get back here with everybody, and we all want him back too. So if you can, write him a letter. Go to freemark.ca and do what you can to cheer him up. So basically, that's the show. I hope you enjoyed the new format. I think I'm going to stick with this format for a while. I'm glad you joined me. Remember, cannabis is the most advanced plant on the planet, and we're going to use it to save ourselves and save the world. So until next week, I'm Marius Stoner, Associate Editor of Cannabis Culture Magazine. Take care.